Hi, folks. Welcome to another episode of Geek Chat. We are GrownAGeeks, and today we're going to be talking about the Penguin. This is a spoiler review. We're going to be discussing all of season one, the good, the bad, the ugly, what we liked about the show, some of our favorite characters and scenes, and season two, what we would want to see or what we would expect, and should it get a season two. Hope you join us. Make sure to like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you can find out whenever we bring new content to you. Find us everywhere you find GrownAGeeks. Click the QR code there right above RG, the bane of your existence. He's here with us tonight to discuss a little Penguin. What's going on, RG?
Beautiful day in the neighborhood. Ready to actually talk about something I thoroughly enjoyed. I'm releasing the hate, breaking the backs of all of this BS television.
All right. The bane of your existence. Joining us also, Teresa Gigante, waste of time. Not a fan of the Penguin, and we will get some insight as to what she didn't like and maybe what they could have done a little better. Joining me as always, Jeffrey JPNT 17, and I am Elder Geek Sam. So, folks, let's talk about Penguin. Season one. I personally thought it was a fantastic season. Very great story. Gave me so much more of this character that we saw in the movie The Batman. Robert Pattinson, Matt Reeves directed movie. Colin Farrell, just an Oscar-worthy performance, taking us from like half the time watching this show, I forgot that was Colin Farrell. I don't know who I thought this actor was, but it's like I would watch these little clips after the show and then see Colin Farrell talking in the chair. I'd be like, oh yeah, that is him under all the prosthetics and makeup and such. And it was just really interesting to watch him dive into someone that is completely unlike himself, I would assume. It just doesn't look anything like Colin, and he really gave a performance that was someone different. Watching the Penguin go from just a small-time mobster and watching his rise to become the iconic Penguin villain that we know from the Batman series was I just thought it was a masterful performance. And there was a lot of interesting stuff that happened, a lot of, psychology involved in the show. And we get some very clear moments where they dive into that specifically. But watching someone go from a small time, crime boss to a major player in Gotham, fantastic show. But that's my opinion. Let's get some opinions of the others. Let's start with Let's start with RG, since this was something you liked.
Yeah,
surprised rare occasion.
Right. Why was this a good show? While we got some time, let's get him on. Like, why was this such a good show? What was it you liked so much?
I got to be honest. What I really liked about this show is that this random ass Batman character, they actually made me interested in him. Penguin, I mean, out of all the Batman villains, Penguin's probably maybe the least interesting, right? Like maybe Danny DeVito's portrayal of him was probably the most we've ever gotten out of a very interesting Penguin, right? On screen. But this show, which is actually not, it is not a DC show. Like it's really not I keep forgetting what they call Batman's hero, his villains.
The crime universe or something.
Oh yeah, this is the crime side.
Yes, the crime universe. So if this show is a very good show at, how can I put it? It's a mob show, but it is definitely one of these a great rags to riches story, right? It is obviously not a story of somebody you would aspire to be or should look at in any way, shape, or form with any admiration, but it definitely is one of those shows where you can my hatred of villainy in shows was in full regale here. Like I could watch this show and just be ready for anything bad to happen to any one of these people, and I would be totally okay. I was completely rooting against everybody. I wanted to see all the drama, all of everyone's downfall. They did the storytelling was awesome. The acting was awesome. The characters they wanted you to focus on, they did a good job of getting you sucked in with those characters. And then the ones that they brought in, the side characters that they brought in, they did a good job at playing their part as the side character. So I got to give it to them. The writing on this was good. They it's not a flawless show. There obviously was there is some room for improvement. There are some really unnecessary characters. There are some unnecessary story points that they use. But overall, I have to give this show a really good 7.5, 8 out of 10. I really enjoyed. I actually thoroughly enjoyed watching it.
High praise from our resident hater. So that is I don't know. I feel like I immediately have to get something to contradict that. So I'm
against the grain.
I'm just not. It is funny because this is like opposite day right here, because RG likes something and Teresa doesn't. So I immediately have to go and find out. It's like I'm wondering, is it because it's DC?
I was about to say that it shouldn't be surprising because it's not Marvel.
Gang.
So, right.
Right. So okay, so Teresa, Gigante wasted time. Not a fan of the season. Where did it miss you? What was the mark missed?
Honestly, because you started to say, where did it miss for me? And it's really my own fault, because if I had sat back and thought about it, I wouldn't even have watched it. But RG mentioned in another show that we did about Agatha that he just watched it for work. I think RG said that.
Yep.
Penguin, I just watched it for work. Because, like I said, if I had sat down and thought about it, the movie, The Batman, I hated. With just everything within me, I hate that movie. When they mentioned that Robert Pattinson was playing Batman, I hated the concept. So I really don't even know why I watched, but I did. I didn't like it. The Penguin is from the Batman universe. I don't know that I did think I would like it, but either way, I did not like it. I will hand it to Colin Farrell. That's what an actor is supposed to do. They're supposed to act, and it's when they're acting, it's not that person, it's somebody else. And that absolutely was not Colin Farrell. It was Oswaldo Cobb or whatever his name is. But it's just not my kind of thing. I like to be entertained. I like to enjoy stuff, and it was just so not enjoyable to me. It just wasn't for me.
And you know what? I appreciate you sticking it out just for work.
And I watched the whole thing. I'm really surprised with myself.
It is fun because when we talked about it earlier, you were like, I hadn't even finished it. So the fact that you finished it, and let me go on record as saying thank you for at least finishing it and being here to discuss what you didn't like, because that could honestly that could help some, because I'm sure you're not the only person.
Yeah.
So, there's somebody else out there and they might be able to resonate with your. It's not their thing. Like, clearly Agatha was not something when we had our discussion about Agatha, that just might not be for RG. And obviously the Penguin just may not be for you. So
For me.
that's how it works. Jeff, what'd you think of the Penguin? Why was it a good show? Why was it a bad show? What are your feelings on it?
Penguin is a show that I was not sure how I was going about it. I didn't really even, when it got announced, it's not connected to the DCU that's coming out. We got this weird Batman spinoff world happening. Like, why do I care about all this crap that's going on? We don't even have a real Batman. Like, we got to deal with this fake, teen angst, smells like Teen Spirit Batman. Like, I don't know how I feel about just getting invested in this world that I just wasn't sure about. I watched the show and I was like, okay, I could see it's going to be well written. For the most part, I enjoyed myself though. And the acting I thought was very, very, very Colin Farrell obviously did his thing. I feel like they could have probably found like an actor who looked like also to like do that role. I don't know. Sometimes it feels weird when actors are like, yeah, let me put on like prosthetics just to look like a normal human being, as opposed to like I'm looking like an alien or I'm looking like the Grinch. It's like, no, you look like Vinny the Deli. Like you could just we like that seems weird to me, but either way, he did his thing. I think that the thing about this show that I was worried about was when I hear the word show about character from universe without main character from that universe that you actually care about, then I'm just like, then why are we here? Because the whole time when we were watching all those Sony Spider-Man spinoff movies, everybody's just like, where the hell is Peter Parker in all this?
Right.
Like, he's the character that we really care about, and y'all giving us all the offshoot stuff for people we don't. And I thought this was kind of going to be the same way. And they did a great job of making me forget that there was even a Batman in the city. Because he didn't respond to nothing the whole series long.
Just
And
make
then
him.
you're going to piss me off. Then you're going to piss me off on the very, very last shot.
Yeah.
So not only is Batman around, we're in the part. This is not year one. We're in the part where Gotham City PD is clearly in cahoots with the Batman. We have a signal, and I ain't seen a bat signal one time this whole series. All these bodies drop, streets getting blown up, shootouts, people breaking out of jail, bodies getting set on fire. And y'all wait till he get all the way to the top. He in the penthouse. Now y'all want to call Batman, or now we're acknowledging that Batman exists. I
And
enjoy.
probably not even
I
calling him
pretend
for anything that happened.
Bruh, I'm just pretending that one moment didn't happen, because for me it just creates too many questions, where you've done such a great job of like buttoning this world up, where it's like this is the underbelly, and not just like the mafia where we're at the head table. Like RG said, this is rags to riches. He's literally pulling himself up through the like gutters of the underworld to get on top. And that's not a position that you always see, because Batman usually just come beat those people up, put them in the hospital or whatever. He's trying to get to like the bosses and the boss. So to see him, basically make himself by lack of better term, he just made himself into a made man. That was great. And if this is a world without the world's greatest detective, I'm cool with all this happening. But once you tell me the world's greatest detective hits, you talking about 3 different crime families. You talking about crime families merging together to form a syndicate right under your nose. You talking about multiple drugs. Under, like, you a bat. You underground and caves should be your thing.
Yeah.
The whole street
Could've
got
found
blown
him
up in the
instantly.
middle of the city. Now, this is just a part of Gotham that Batman is neglecting. All right, cool. But that's not how I understand the character to be wired. So outside of that, I think phenomenal show. But I think DC, even in the movie, they did this with Riddler being in the cell next to Joker. It's like, you don't got to remind me. Like, you reminding me that this stuff happened is actually like not adding. It's taking me out of this world. Cause like once you put Riddler in the cell next to Joker, it's like, okay, so this is Batman year one. This nigga already caught the Joker. Like, well, what's that story? Like, we can come back to all this Riddler blowing up Congress people stuff. Like, what's the story of this young pup who he don't really look like he know what he doing, bringing down the Joker? And it's kind of the same thing with this. It's like, now the question is, what has Batman been doing all this?
Yeah.
But other than that, I think phenomenally acted. I think the way the story was woven together was done really, really well. And I think the chemistry between all of the actors was really, really
Overall, I think one of the reasons this story worked, and it's kind of crazy because Matt Reeves gave us the Bat, and there was this other movie he did, and it's, what do I want to say here? So, as you mentioned, whenever we have movies or we have a series, a show, a story where it's about this person who's from this thing, but that person's not there, they usually don't go well, because if you don't have something to tie me back into that universe, it feels like it doesn't need to. Perfect example, Joker. What the hell? However, given that this movie took place in Gotham, they used the people from Gotham. They used the families that existed in Gotham, those crime families and things like that. And a lot of the elements from the story are a direct result of the Riddler's workings. Like when the movie first starts, or when the series first starts, that first episode, they are making sure you know that this is the aftermath of the Riddler. They have the Batman theme playing in the background, those big horns. They're reminding you of what's here. And then they gravitate away from that to tell this individual story. And they did a good enough job with the story they told to not have me looking for Batman the entire shit. They really got to like explain that and make that make sense at some point. But
and my whole point about that too is just that like we're not like Batman's relationship with Gotham PD is not what it was when we were in the movie.
Right.
You know, as we get to the
Right.
end of that movie, you see, you know, Commissioner Gordon leaning towards, you know, the idea of collaborating with Bat. In the time between that and the end of this series, we have now created a communication system via bat signal with Batman. Now, unless that was the unveiling, like unless they just had like the ribbon cutting for that, and that was like the first night ever,
right.
I need not like, because I get why maybe Oswald wouldn't be on the Batman's radar. He was just a driver or whatever, but I'm gonna need at least like him in the bushes and like Batman. You just see a dude like shoot the little grapple gun and fly out of the frame or something. Like
Right.
he got to
Or
be poking around there somewhere.
Even and honestly, to that point, and this is something that I did think about this.
It's a loose batarang on the ground.
Given that this stuff took place in Crown Point, it would have made sense for them at least to allude to some of their activity, because these were some super bold criminals for this man to exist. For Batman to exist in Gotham, these were some really bold criminals out here being villains and being crime bosses, because they was loud with it. They was flagrant with it. Mm-hmm. And I get that, you know, and I have to be careful because, of course, I can usually like create a scenario where it makes sense, try to justify it and whatnot. And I don't think that needs to happen here, because they really need to figure out a way to address. And that can be something we discuss more. We get to like what to expect out of a season 2 kind of thing. But they really do need to figure out a way to address, because the only thing that made sense to me was Crown Point was so like everything that was happening seemed to be happening outside of God. When he would go to visit his mom, she was like uptown, so she was away from Gotham. When he was doing his business, like whenever Penguin was doing work for the family, he might be in Gotham. But when he was going to his lab, when he was, you know, working on the ground, he was over in the flats. He was over in the east side. He was over in the slums. He was not in Gotham. And the only time, because like when they showed at one point when they're at Crown Point and they're looking out from the apartment that Victor found, you know, they're looking towards the city where the lights are. So the only thing that kind of made sense to me was that Gotham is over there. And as you pointed out, maybe all of this stuff is taking place on the outskirts. They outside the perimeter. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like Batman kind of focuses inside the perimeter. We talk about stuff that's happening out in Covington, not in Atlanta. You know what I'm saying? Not our main metropolitan city. This is like, you know, a couple miles that way. And that's the only justification. And when they had the scene, like I said, when they were in the apartment and they were looking towards the city, that was the only time where I kind of thought like, so do they not know Bat? Well, I guess maybe he wouldn't be, you know what I'm saying? Because it's like, that's the only thing that could make sense. And so now towards the end of the series, Oswald has made it, and now he's in Gotham. And because he's in Gotham, And I still think like, yeah, maybe this is the first time they've used the bat signal. Don't know. But now that he's in Gotham, and that's what I'm saying. Like now that he's in Gotham, now the Batman is like now he would probably pop up on his radar. It's still kind of weird though, because in the movie, he knew who Penguin was. He's like, you know me. He actually grabbed Penguin. He did. I mean, they had like one of the coolest car chase scene moments, like when we got the car coming through the flames. It was, it was dope. All of that took place. So it's not like he doesn't know this man exists. So if he knows this man exists, he is very bold to be out here criming the way he's criming with a man like that running around. And that was the only thing that kind of stood out to as far as
like the whole family ends up dead with an accident after the killer in the family just gets out of Arkham and Batman is nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely
when
a
you see no
like,
tire treads.
I'm not trying to justify it. I am with you 100%. They gotta explain that. They gotta make that. I don't know if
but without that bat signal at the end, I'm not even thinking about that. I wasn't thinking about none of this while I'm watching the show because they did a good job of establishing that like whatever's going on here, like Batman ain't really like involved in what's going on. Yeah. But once you put the one. Yeah, and I feel like that's just the kind of thing where it's like, bro, like you did
good, and then you fumbled the landing.
I'm getting used to this universe. I hate the fact that they're trying to make it so much grounded in reality, like that. That Batman is not somewhat on the cusp of superhuman. That's the Batman I'm used to. He's really extra strong. He's extra fast. He's the world's best fighter. He has all this super technology. That ain't this universe, and I'm totally getting that. That's not this. I think the only way I attempted to justify Batman's non-involvement is this is crime bosses again. This is mafia families against other mafia families. Y'all want to wipe each other out? Go ahead and wipe each other out. Like we didn't see any violence or anything happening to a bunch of innocent, during the show. This is mostly an inner family, a crime family beef that we're seeing. So that was how I kind of like, because I was also kind of like, all right, if this shit get too crazy, like, don't Batman got to show up and like beat somebody's ass or something? But nothing ever really went against innocent people. This was all criminal on criminal activity. So that's how I kind of went, all right, this is why Batman is like, all right, I'm going to let y'all do your thing because I'm still trying to help them fix this canal over here or whatever it was. And the city's obviously trying to get their infrastructure back and all that other stuff. So
he out here being Bruce Wayne right now. That's
for real. He obviously had to get his weight up because the Batman movie, he was definitely a little light in the ass. Wasn't the scary Batman that we all knew. I don't think anybody was scared of Edward. So
he was weird. They were scared of him, but like in a weird way.
Yeah,
like he came to the crime scene. Them cops was like, "Look at this freak."
Ew.
It's like, damn, they calling Batman a freak to his face. It's crazy.
See, he hasn't established that reputation. He's gonna have to beat some cops' ass before they give him that kind of respect and like just avoid. So that'll be something moving forward. For this series, The Penguin, were there any standout characters? I mean, obviously, Oswald Cobb is our main character, so there's a certain amount that's going to go to him. But the supporting cast, so to speak, Sophia Falcone, Gigante, Victor Aguilar, Salvatore, a nice little turn from Mark Strong as Carmine Falcone. He was interesting. Dr. Julian Rush. I mean, there was some interesting characters in here. But like RG said, I think a lot of the supporting characters did a good job of being supporting characters. But was there anyone that like really stole a scene or, what were some of the favorite scenes or favorite characters of the series? RG, who really stood out for you?
Oh, I love Sophia. I rooted for her the whole show. I was rooting for Sophia the whole show. I loved Sophia. I love the fact that I loved her arc in a way. If you can call it an arc, it kind of like arced and then plateaued a bit. But I like her coming from Arkham, all the shit she went through in Arkham, the fact that she survived all of that in Arkham, the fact that she even used some of that information in attempt to create this new, the create Bliss.
Right.
I love her level of ruthlessness. I absolutely love the way she murdered her family. I don't know if I should say I love the way she murdered her family on camera, but
that showed the ruthlessness of the character. I get the point you're
yes,
making.
there you go.
And given that we've had many discussions about villains not being villains, it was kind of refreshing to see some villains actually be villains.
I mean, that's what I love about this show. That's exactly.
Yeah.
These are all villains. This is a villain show. And they were all basically no redeeming freaking qualities. Now, Sophia had some redeeming qualities, right? Like that was the one reason why she stood out to me, is that there is a degree of loyalty to her, or the way she, like, for example, had she killed the niece, right? Like, had she killed the niece, it would have been like, God damn, this bitch is evil, right?
She has honor.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly, right. She didn't kill the prostitute, I was this prostitute, so I was like, okay. I like her. So along those lines, I like her character. Like, she stood out for me. She was the one I rooted for the most, because she was the one in that show who I feel like, I want to say, and I'm using the word again.
Sticks.
Yeah, and it was just her arc was, you watch her as, even though you're instantly introduced to her as just the hangman, but we did get to see her backstory a bit. So watching her become this gangster level person to where she's dealing with that, and then how she has to move and function and deal with all these people, with all this betrayal, and working through the various obstacles from all the people that she's dealing with on the show. I enjoyed watching how she maneuvered that way. So I feel like she was the one out of all of the characters on the show, maybe outside of Victor, who Jesus Christ, I wanted to punch him in the chest like every other episode. But just be like, come on, man, be a goddamn man, dog. What's wrong with you? How you grow up here? Like, how you grow up here and you just so soft, man? You baby thighs, Jesus Christ. But yeah, her character was the one that I liked the most. She stood up.
Did you have a particular scene? Was there of the episodes? Was there one moment that felt really brought the whole show together for you?
It was probably the dinner scene, right? It was the dinner scene with the family, and then when she took the niece away, it took the niece away, and I was really in suspense about what was going to happen, and how she was actually going to deal with that in the family. But I liked the interactions between her and the way she kind of stood up, and you knew that was going to be sort of a breakout moment for her. So I did like that. That was the scene that was memorable.
Very cool. Teresa, we're going to switch up the question for you just a little bit, because you may not have a favorite scene.
The end.
Was in credits.
They're great.
Was there a specific scene that lost you? Like, could you have been middle ground until this?
You know what? I don't think so, because what I realized is that it just really never was my kind of thing.
Okay.
You've heard before from me that I like to be entertained. I like fantasy and escapism. And when you escape, you generally want to escape to something that's better than your own reality, or something that you can lose yourself in and enjoy. Gotham is not that place.
No. Nobody vacationing in Gotham, okay?
No. Gotham is not that place. And I don't like mafia movies. I I hated the Batman, so it was really doomed
Yeah,
from the
0 for 3.
beginning.
Yeah.
Right. But I did buckle down and watch it for work. And there's some strong storylines in there, some good acting. When I start to get disturbed is another time I want to walk away too. Something's just too disturbing. And what sticks with me was how Sophia's father did her. And that weighed heavily on my mind. She when she figured out what happened to her mother, and then how he just took that and ran and had her arrested for those murders, thrown into the hospital, and the rest of the family writing letters supporting how mentally ill she was and all this kind of stuff. And the only person she had on her side was her brother. When her brother called her crying and said there's not going to be a trial, they talked to the judge and they decided there wasn't going to be a trial, that you just have to do your time. And I was like, what the fuck?
That was actually just a hard episode.
Yes.
Even for me, I'm sitting there with the wife watching, and I was just like, that's a
God
lot.
Damn.
Right.
Exactly.
Like, that was, honestly,
Exactly.
that was a lot.
Some grimy shit, man.
Yeah.
That one's still kind of, it's weird. Like when you mentioned, I kind of knew exactly what we were getting to when you said when you're disturbed, because that was an episode that, like, I felt needed like a trigger warning at the beginning of the episode. Like, they have some episodes where they're like, oh, there may be some flashing lights, Caesar exposed, please watch with caution kind of. This one needed to be like, this episode contains and
some grimy shit.
Like utter betrayal.
Right. You about to see some things happen to a woman who's is innocent. Right. At the end of the day, granted, she's the daughter of a crime boss, and he wanted her to take his place, and she would have ended up being the head of the crime family. So there's a certain part of it that's like, okay, she's still not a good person, but she wasn't that person. She wasn't the person that deserved any of that. And so I can definitely agree with RG as far as it's very easy to root for her because of how she was wrong, and you really want to see her get hers. Yeah. Ultimately, her getting hers is being the head of a crime family.
Right. Which ain't the happiest,
But because she's suffered so much for it, you do kind of want her to have it. And I can definitely say that it was. I just want Theo Rossi to play a character that I don't just want to punch the moment I see. Because the moment he came on screen on this, I was like, because I remember you from Luke Cage, and I don't like you. So him being Dr. Julian Rush, I was like, yeah, he gonna be. I thought he was maybe going to be Dr. Hugo Strange, but that'd be too much lore, and they can't do that. Jeffrey, favorite characters, scene that really stuck.
My favorite character was probably Sophia. I think that she was interesting because I think she is literally the polar opposite of Oz. Is it Oswald? Because I know they be changing his name.
Both.
Oswald.
It is Oswald, but his last name is not Cobblepot. It's just Cobb.
Right.
Just Cobb.
Right.
And so it's Oswald, but they called him Oz.
So yeah, I feel like they're polar opposite, but like two sides of the same coin, where it's like their philosophies on what it takes to get to the top are opposing. Oswald's philosophy is every man for himself, lie, steal, kick, kill, do whatever you got to do to get to the next level, because the only thing that matters is getting. And I think that because Sophia was like a daddy's girl, but her daddy was a crime boss, she has like a different view of being a gangster and being a made man. And she saw, outside of him being like a serial killer of like women, she saw somebody who was kind and gave back to his community and was a good father and like all this other stuff. And so I feel like her approach, even in how she formed the families, was very much about, we're doing like crime, but like we can do it in a way that is not like in an ethical way, Like she wanted to be like the ethical crime boss, especially because she had been done wrong. She had been falsely accused. She was really about just like, all right, so this is super corrupt all the way through and through. It wasn't just my dad, it's all of y'all, and y'all are continuing to do this. And now I'm back, and y'all trying to pretend like I'm crazy. They're trying to send me to Italy. So now I got to kill all y'all because y'all still in my way of stopping me from doing this the way that I want to do it. Now, I gave you the chance to let me do this, but then when you didn't, then I had to go to the next step. As opposed to Oz, who is like, I don't care what happens, whatever comes in front of me, I'm just going to take whatever option gets me where I want to go, even if that means I'm leaving Sophia out there with them people. Like, I don't care if she gets in this car, she better get her ass up and get over here. I got a bum leg. If I can get over here, she definitely should be able to get over here. Right. So I think Sophia, just because of what she kind of represented as a foil to Oz, in that like usually it's like a character like this versus a Batman or versus the police that makes you feel like, okay, well, obviously, like I'm not rooting for him because the police are a completely different side of justice. But now we get to see, two people on the wrong side of justice, but still with conflicting ideas about how being in that position should be. And her not getting what she wanted and him getting what he wanted kind of just nails home the final point about what it means to be on that side, which is you have to be every man for himself. As much as you want to watch the show and it makes you feel like, oh, I want to root for Oz. I want to understand, like, they try to show you little snippets to be like, this is kind of how he got there. And it's like, yeah, he's always like, since he was a kid, like he literally killed his own family, like, and knew they were there, knew they were in trouble and let them die. Like, there's no redeeming him. There's nothing redeemable about him, no matter how much you can try to make him sympathetic in a moment. You got to understand at his core, he is a scorpion. He will sting you. It doesn't matter how many times he says he won't, Mr. Frog. Don't carry him across that river.
Right.
And you say, nah, I got it. Now you're getting choked out by the lake in the middle of the night because you think y'all finally made it to the top. He made it to the top. Get out of here. And so I think, and to go to my favorite scene, I think my favorite scene is the like nail in the coffin, I think, on reinforcing that point about Oz, which is the scene in the finale with his mom, him, and Sophia trying to get him to confess that he knew his brothers were there because she found out that but Sophia found out the mother already knew and was going to have him killed by the mob boss. So the reveal of information, the reveal of like we think we know everything, and then dropping the fact that she put a hit on her own kid after that, and we might have been able to avoid all this if she had like gone through with that. And like him even just being stuck in preserving this fantasy of his ma seeing him as like this golden boy and realizing his whole world is shattered. That night, she has seen you as a killer and a monster, and she's probably really been afraid of you and appeased like this whole time, not just being this loving mother who really, really cares. And but the fact that he was going to allow her to get her finger chopped off to maintain the lie and his own selfish, it was just some phenomenal character work. There's even like a small little moment where Sophia realizes like this motherfucker really is gonna let me chop off his mama finger and not tell she's like, there's nothing that you won't do to lie. Now I will say the only bad thing about that scene, when they started shooting, my boy Oz, you was moving a little too fast with mom's hoisted up on your shoulder in one bag leg. How everybody
and a stab wound, no less.
Yeah. I don't know about that one. Yeah. But yeah, I think the way that scene was executed, the way it was written, the way it was acted, even the editing of how they used the flashbacks, it was just riveting. And I was on the edge of my seat during that scene just to see like, is he gonna break? Are the writers gonna break and give him a redeemable? And they said, fuck no.
My man is a sociopath.
And that was the moment, like, honestly, it was in that scene where I was like thinking to myself, RG has to love this show.
Yeah,
Because
same.
these villains are villains.
Same. Once they did that, I was like, oh yeah, RG, he's on.
These villains.
Ah!
And to be fair, watching this series was really a moment where I can kind of be like, yeah, it does kind of suck when you feel bad for the bad. When you start getting into that redeeming arc for a villain, and then you're like, well, they're not that.
It's
But then
hard
you see
because
Sophia's doing the shit she's
you're
doing.
writing a protagonist, you're writing an antagonist as a protagonist.
Right.
And so it's like it's hard not to do the protagonist thing of like, here's why, and there's a justification for it. And it's like the justification is this little motherfucker is a psycho. He's been killing kids since he was a kid. He's fascinated with the mob. You know, he was obsessed with his mother, like clear Oedipal. Like I ain't no psychiatrist, but I can see that. That's obvious. Like you got this lady strapped to the bed up in the penthouse, making her look at the city with tears falling from her eyes.
After he and it's crazy. Like I was just thinking to myself, like she made him, and when she had a lucid moment, she made him promise that he would not let her be a vegetable, and he agreed. And I was thinking to myself, like I could almost have seen him just resisting and saying no and talking about his brother, something to distract her and get her mind off of, make her have an episode or something, so he wouldn't have to agree to that. But he said yes, and he said okay. And when he got to the hospital and she was in that vegetative state and whatnot, at that moment, I was like, damn, he gonna pull the plug. Like that's gonna do it for him. That's gonna break him. And now he's just gonna be unhinged. That's what I was expecting to see. Like everything that happened after that, I was already pissed. Because it was like, and then he only goes on to make me even more furious. Cause damn it, Vic, damn it.
Yeah. And
Like,
that's what you gotta love about this type of show, man. Is that
and I will
Victor
say
is stupid.
Victor.
Love it.
Yeah.
Victor is stupid. He ain't learned the game.
Well, exactly.
Now the funny thing is, here's this was for me, for my favorite character, of course. I was really a fan of Victor's journey. Watching him start off as someone just trying to boost rims to becoming essentially a lieutenant and then a second, while Oz is on his growth. You know, he's bringing Victor along with him the entire time. It's not a good thing to watch somebody become worse and watch their decline into this underbelly. But as RG was mentioned, he wanted to punch him every other episode. Like to see him begin to speak up more, to take charge. And I noticed, like when he was having that conversation with the Golden Guild or whatnot, you know what I'm saying? When he was talking to all the other underbosses out in the street and was like, we got to go save up. Like there wasn't as much stutter for his character as there had been, as he was now kind of gaining that independent confidence and speaking to them and addressing them. And, you know, my man had to come over and be like, hey kid, shut up. They will kill you.
Right.
Like, this is not the moment to be big. Keep it quiet. We'll figure something, you know, like, and watching him, you know, when he finally had to deal with Squid, he had to make a choice. Like, you got to see where he started, for better or worse, taking charge and making decisions and protecting what he felt he needed to protect. It only makes sense, unfortunately, for him to go out like that, just because when Oz saw that Victor was able to get all of the lieutenants to turn on their respective leaders to support Oz, what would make Oz think that he's not going to take him out of his sleep? Why wouldn't Victor just take over because he's basically shown Victor, if there was anybody else who had all of the info, it was going to be Victor. Now, Victor may not have been the kid who was going to be able to run everything, but I kind of feel like Oz would have always had to kind of look over his shoulder. Now, truthfully, I don't think Victor ever would have challenged Oz that way, which is unfortunate because you could clearly see that he was looking at him as like a surrogate brother or a surrogate father figure, you know what I'm saying? And they had those moments, you know what I'm saying? And it was like those, not really moments of tenderness or whatnot. That seems weird, but like understands that and my normal, like, pushing isn't. Let me build him up a little bit right now. This is a moment where I better for me. You know, he can breed that loyalty, and he got that. Then sever that tie the way he did was like, oh, that was the single series to me, because everything that happened in Monroe's with the survival mode at that point, and Oz is good at just taking advantage of the quick-witted individual who just like can spot what, and that's how he operates all the time. It was a conscious choice with Victor, and that was when he was trying to get his mom back. With Maroney came in, he was holding his gun up like he already knew he was get mom back. So he would have done whatever needed. He's in that room. He's in Monroe's, and she's just going in. That she wanted him to suffer, but she wasn't getting what she wanted, and it away. When he went out, that was a conscious decision. Take advantage of the moment, and nothing redeemable about this.
Things that I really appreciated about that. The entire time, the way I looked at what that scene confirmed for me is that didn't care. There were no tender moments between Victor. There was him, to do what he wanted Victor. And it was one of the things like Sophia said early in the show, you're what people want to. And that was exactly what, and he's just really good. He's really good at manipulating people and getting people to do what. When he killed Victor, to me, I didn't feel like he did it like from this, get in his way, right? He has a goal and things that he engaged. He wanted his mother to himself. Well, who was in his way? So he got rid of. And that is the depths that, wow, I keep messing that word up, to go in order to accomplish his goals. Because he was concerned about watching his back. Because I don't need any attachments. Me is just going to be one of those things that somebody's going to use against.
Like I don't got to be concerned about mom no more. She's a vegetable. Somebody knock her off. She's already knocked off for real. And last time we talked, she stabbed me. So
right. For example, someone did go after his mother, and he's going to flip out. He's going to wig out, right? But she means to him, not what she actually scenarios. And then he makes them his reality. Twisted and fucked up, but he needs to be. And to help him accomplish all of this, man is evil. And we are watching the rise of evil. Batman's rogues got of people that are fucking evil. They have to be right, and they have to be crazy. Yeah. And as orderly and as Batman is, these other people need to be changed and unhinged.
Batman crazy too, dressed as a bat. So they all got to have the same kind of.
They got issues.
Yeah, that's a unique perspective. The attachment he would have. I guess since he, did you get a sense that the councilman that maybe he's trying to get out of the drug game, political side of things?
No, I felt like he. That's why he didn't kill Sophia. He had to be the fall guy.
The whole plan, and I got the whole plan, and it was her going back to Arkham. So in the end, he got the ultimate. He was like, maybe you introduced me to some of your friends. Maybe he can rebuild the Bliss operation, since there's.
But that's just so you can launder the drug money through go and get more access. Plus, all them politicians be doing drugs.
I mean,
if you are the politicians, are not going to jail.
I mean, a lot of those people were probably rubbed a couple elbows. Now he can rub up a little higher. And that's why Mayor-elect Bella Real.
Right. Well, a big motivation for him is respect. So he himself, right? Yeah. He wants to be in this penthouse. Exactly.
Yeah.
So him getting himself mixed in with is just wish fulfillment for him.
Gotcha. Interpretations on that. I kind of made some stuff here in my head. Season 2 thoughts. Does this show need a season? Says no season 2. We good. I got everything. Good.
I'm gonna say no season 2, but I would just keep making different series characters or different scenarios. So it's as your prequel villain or this character got to the place where they can be on Bat. The last episode of all the shows can have a Bat, but I would be much more interested in what Catwoman's up to over in Bloodhaven. To some of the other villains. I mean, the Riddler, I feel personally like they waste. I don't really like the way the Batman movie per se, but perfect kind of show to introduce that character, maybe just what and how they got to messages with like there's other characters. Maybe there's like a Toya show where you maybe different characters and different people in the city of Gotham. Maybe show who's the Barbara Gordon of this universe middle school show, I guess. But I'm just trying to think of Batman because it's like we
The
haven't
same
established
five
like I feel like Poison Ivy doesn't because I don't want like science Poison Ivy. I want sex Poison Ivy.
Right.
And this will have weird like shaved head Antifa like plant warrior Gotham City. And it's like not to be sex like
Yeah.
this. I would be interested figuring out who are the characters that they could make interesting because I didn't think but I also think that like we have reached some amount of my interest in a Penguin show that so unless season 2 is him and this nigga getting it, I don't want to see no more Penguin nothing that doesn't have Batman. Dude should be on Batman.
RG season 2 or not?
I agree. Season 2 with Penguin. I can use origin story. You know, I'd be good with a Two-Face origin story. I believe because they're really based on reality, those two would probably into a Catwoman too. And they've already done the movie, so I mean, a Catwoman, I'll take Zoe or
Well, I mean, the letter she
at
the end indicates she's still around and kicking and out. So if nothing else, I'm gonna be in agreement. I don't care to be told. I think the next time we see him doing whatever he's doing he's now in Gotham. He's part of Gotham Elite. Bruce Wayne is out somewhere. He looks up and he sees that guy. He has to meet him for the first time kind of thing. And, hosted by mayoral candidate.
Drug.
Right. And that was the idea of introducing some of the other characters, modifying the Bliss. He found Bliss. He reverse engineer it, comes up with the fear toxin from that. You can run that, and that's the new thing. It's Titans,
right?
So they did that in Titans, and so fear toxin was really just like a that then was modified and went wrong. So, I think the Rogues Gallery is enough. And if we're doing the epic crime drama, we do have to kind of get away from some more interesting fantasy villains, like you mentioned with Poison Ivy. And Two-Face to me is one of those characters that we've seen him a couple of times. And so I don't necessarily need to see him yet again, even if we get a more grounded, real version. Aaron Eckhart's version was about as grounded and as real. Because Tommy Lee Jones was camping over the top like he was supposed to be.
Right.
So Aaron Eckhart's character was he was the great mayor candidate, and then he just kind of snapped and was like, let's flip a coin, so they've got that. I think characters, and you can really dive into the Rogues Gallery, but someone like Professor Pig, who is just like a complete psychopath killer, he's the type of person that you could bring into this weird world. Mad Hatter doesn't make sense. Killer Moth doesn't make sense. But someone like it's way too early for Hush because then you got to bring in other stuff that doesn't make sense. Skip Joker altogether, but a Mad Hatter could possibly be spun right, and he could kind of be like that middle ground. Maybe he's not villain,
right?
But he's doing bad things, so of course he's in there. Hell, let's get Calendar Man on the map.
Oh Lord,
King.
I mean, Black Mask.
Right, I was thinking Black Mask would be good.
You know what?
Universe.
In the fallout of all of these criminal organizations kind of collapsing, somebody's got to step up and take over.
I'll take a Talia al Ghul Femme Fatale series.
Oh yeah,
she's on assignment and got killed.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Teresa, I know you're not interested in season 2. Do you know anything about Batman characters or anybody that you would be interested in?
I'm done with Gotham.
Done with Gotham. I mean, we've kind
now
of
leaving Gotham
down. I mean, Gotham had
Good
what
riddance.
5 seasons?
She got on the bus.
They covered a bunch of people in those 5 seasons. I get it.
Yes, I would gladly buy a ticket to Star City or really anywhere.
See you in Metropolis.
It's just not for me. And I thought it was interesting because I binged the first 6 episodes at once, and then I watched the last 2 episodes right before we started recording. But at one point during the first binge, I was like, I'm only going to keep going for Vic. I want to see what happens to Vic. Last episode, he chokes Vic out. I'm done.
Yeah, it's like
Gigante.
Vic should have sent him a letter. Like,
There
we'll
you go.
always be family, but I'm out in Cali with my
My
shorty.
shorty went for
Right,
real.
right. He should have got on that bus.
This crime
He should have
stuff
got
is
on the
not
bus
for
to
me.
Star City with me. So,
and if he had dipped out there, I would have been okay with him dipping out there. That would have been the moment. Because he stood up and decided he was gonna go, and,
get on the bus with 1,000 miles.
Right.
What's that song? Some inspirational music.
So, well, that is a spoiler review for The Penguin season 1. We're all in agreement that we don't really need a season 2. You're gonna bring Penguin back in anything, let him cameo in the next movie as his story. I mean, he's made it. He's in the penthouse. He did everything he set out to do. I'm curious if there's anything that's going to happen with Sophia Gigante. Like, is Catwoman going to go and break her out of jail? Get some help from Dr. Julian Rush, who surprisingly got a job back at Arkham. How about that?
Yeah.
He gonna stand by his woman. That's
I mean, I don't know any accredited psychiatrists who would be lining up to go work at Arkham.
If you got credentials, they gotta be paying great. The hazard pay alone makes it worthwhile. But if you're not a Hugo Strange, and that's who needs to pop up. You need a Hugo Strange spinoff. He could go and take over. He could be in place of that other doctor, because that would have been a great place to actually have had him there. The doctor that was doing all the experiments, let that be Hugo Strange. That would have been a good one. But alas, that is not what Matt Reeves wanted to. But I will say, just as a final thought, if you are going to do a show about a character that's connected in a universe and not have the main character, this is actually how you do it. So Todd Phillips, chin up. I hope you paid attention. Take some damn notes.
Last scene.
Minus the last scene. That was probably contractually required.
Nah, hell.
It had to be, because
I'm not letting him off the hook. I'm not letting.
I'm not going to let him off the hook.
I know them the boys over at DC, but I don't think you got to worry about the big blue Boy Scout flying through this Gotham ever.
No.
This is a world without hope.
Definitely on the darker side. But I get now why the weather is like it is and why everybody's all gloomy and pissed off all the time. Man, who wants to go to Gotham? But that has been our show. We hope you've enjoyed. Leave us comments down below. Let us know what you think. Who was your favorite character? What scene stood out the most for you? Should Sophia have won in the end, or are you still rooting for Penguin? He's finally made it. We hope you've enjoyed this. Make sure to like and subscribe. Follow us everywhere you can. QR code there in the corner. For RG, Jeffrey, Teresa, I'm Elder Geek Sam, and we are out of here. Peace.